Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special town council meeting for Thursday, October 13th, 2016. The opening prayer will be given by the Reverend Margaret J. of the First Congregational Church. Please rise.
Let us pray. Holy One, we ask for your presence with the town council this evening. Grant them your strength and wisdom as they conduct the business of this community. And we give thanks as we gather here this evening for those who serve in public capacities, for our mayor, for all of the members of the town council, for those who serve the town of Wallingford as teachers and firefighters and police officers, for those who work for the public works, for all of those who make this community what it is. We ask that all would listen to one another this evening, that the public might share in this conversation, and that we recognize and give thanks for all of those public servants and private citizens who work together in partnership with one another to make this a better community for all of its citizens, that seek to heal the broken places in our lives and to offer hope in the midst of all of the opportunities that we have. And for that, we give thanks. Amen.
We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Here.
Laffin, Letourneau,
Here.
Marone,
Here.
Shortell, Sullivan,
Here.
Testa, Zandri,
Here.
Cervoni.
Here. Councilor Laffin advised me of a work conflict. Councilor Shortell advised me of a conflict involving his children. And Councilor Testa is planning to be here as soon as he is done with his work obligations for the evening. With that, we move on to item 3, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move the consent agenda, items 3A through 3M, with the exclusion of 3H.
Second. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. And with that, we've confirmed the mayor's appointment of Attorney Gina Verano to the Personnel and Pension Appeals Board. Attorney Verano, if you'd like to come up and be sworn, the clerk will take your oath.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully discharge according to law your duties as a member of the Personnel and Pension Appeals Board of the Town of Wallingford to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Okay. Can you just sign that for us?
Thank you for your service. On to item 4. There were no items removed from the consent agenda. Item H was actually withdrawn. And on to item 5, which is the public question and answer period. Mr. Welch is sitting up front and close to the mic, and I'd just like to note that we arrived to a council table full of gifts from the coalition. Thank you.
Ken Welch, 21 Pleasant Street, and president of the Coalition for Better Wallingford, now housed at 136 Center Street. I want to start by thanking the council, the mayor, for supporting the coalition, both financially and endorsing the work that we're doing and have done. It's especially moving for me to be back in these chambers. It was just a short 3 years ago that we were formed as a result of conversation that took place here, and because of the endorsement and support of everybody on the council and in the mayor's office. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's been a meaningful journey. And as long as I have the mic, I'm here because of Red Ribbon Week. And I'd like to just point out some of the events that we have coming up that start on the 20th with the opening ceremony on the parade grounds. On Monday night, the 24th, we've got a panel discussion involving our police chief and a member of the coalition. They're going to be talking about the truth about marijuana. That's going to be very interesting because some of the facts from around the nation, as well as some of the where this state stands and some of the issues with medical marijuana versus the legalization of recreational marijuana are going to be discussed, and that's going to be a very interesting discussion. And then we end with the Walk of Hope on Thursday. Last year we had about 600 citizens there. An awful lot of the community comes out to that. Our keynote speaker is going to be Eloise Hazelwood from the health department that night. So if you can make any of those events, it's always important that citizens see you guys out there, and I know you care about it. So thanks for your time.
Ken, thank you for the work you've done for the cause. I think we've certainly been very aware of the work you've done for awareness of the effects that addiction has had in our community. And I think I can speak for the whole council that we are certainly grateful for your work. Thank you.
Thanks. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our theme. I should have mentioned it first. Strong family, strong community. With the storefront, you're going to see a lot of activities this year that support that theme. And we'll be looking into some of you folks to come help with that. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? I look to Mr. Gross, and he shakes his head no. All right, with that, I will close the public question and answer period. On to item 6.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the carry forward of the unspent balance of $654,951 of the Board of Education operating funds into the 1617 1% account.
Moved, seconded by Councilor Letourneau. We have certainly entertained this request in the past, and I believe there's statutory authority for it. Mr. Bose, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, a few years back, and we have Mr. Aram here, our interim school business manager, if
If you'd like to
detailed questions. But,
sit at the table, and once again, for the benefit of the record, introduce yourself. The clerk is taking minutes.
Yeah, Ed Aram, interim business manager.
Thank you.
But in answer to your question, yes, a few years back, the state of Connecticut adopted a law, a statute, which allows a Board of Education in Connecticut to pursue, I will say, a carry forward, if you will, as we call them, an appropriations in force, of up to 1% of their budget that may have been unspent in the prior year to be carried into the new fiscal year. And you're correct, we've done it the last couple of years, so that's where we are.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just again to remind everyone, this is something that has to be done every year. It's not when it was first created and then automatically some amount of money goes over into it. It is something that has to be acted on an annual basis, just so that that's understood by everyone.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions from the council? Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess to Mr. Bose, if I may, when this money, and I know we've done this for a few years, but there's no restrictions on the expenditure. The intent is that the Board of Education still has power over this money to determine how it's spent.
Yeah, the statute is actually silent as to the utilization of the funds. So I certainly don't want to present myself as an attorney, but I'm going to make the same assumptions I've made before, and that the governing body or the legislative body and the budgeting process, once it's completed, as you folks know, at the beginning of the year, the allocations made to schools, and then they they basically allocate it where they think they need to. I'd find it hard to say that the process with a 1% leftover or, you know, some fraction thereof can then be dictated how it's used. That's just my feeling of it. That's some of my professional peers that I've discussed it with over the last couple of years. That's how they feel as well. I can't point you to any legal ruling on that or anything like that. I don't want to present it that way, but.
No, because I confirm that the statute seems to be silent on that. My thought is, there's been a lot of expression up here, I think, about capital expenditures with the Board of Education. So, you know, we're talking about a lot of money, and I'm just trying to see whether or not we can, if we have to just throw it into this pot, or can we say in our authorization that we would like it to be or somehow restricted to capital improvements?
I don't want to throw Ed under a bus, but I'll ask Ed to share his experience. But in my view, I think you're going to probably find that hard to do.
You know, in your draft, and I'm just new here, so I'm just, next year, you know, this year with the money, it goes into capital projects. It's not for salaries, it's not for books, it's for technology and maintenance items that we have.
Okay, and I'll defer to the mayor.
I'm listening very carefully and closely to the wording you used. There's probably, I don't think there's any inability to suggest. You can suggest anything. However, the Board of Ed makes the final decision on whether they want to spend it for one item or another. But I think you used the word suggest. Suggest is it's just that. It's a suggestion. If you were to say, this can be done, but it can only be spent for X, Y, Z, that you could not enforce.
Okay, so is it our understanding that procedurally we can't set up this account, let's say, in two pieces? One piece being for capital expenditures, one piece being for whatever operating, and then appropriate, you know, perhaps 50/50.
That's correct.
Okay.
Once it is approved as a carryover from the fiscal year, the Board of Education continues to have custody of it, and by state law, they determine what should be spent in what manner for education. So no, you can't restrict any amount of this. It's either allowed for expenditure in the new fiscal year or it's not. But there's no ability to control how it is spent.
Understood. And one of my concerns is many times we hear that our reserves are used against us in collective bargaining, for instance. So, you know, if all of a sudden we're putting $700,000 in a reserve account that can be used for anything, the argument could be used that, you know, that should be given to wages. And if it's restricted, then perhaps we dull that argument. So, but if I'm being told that we can't do that, at least how the statute is presently, then, you know, we go on. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Any other questions or comments from the council? Any questions or comments from the public? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Fishbein,
Yes.
Letourneau,
Yes.
Marone,
Yes.
Sullivan,
So your first visit was painless, wasn't it? Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Cervoni.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you for
No, thank
coming
you
to
very
see
much.
us. Welcome to town. Best of luck to you.
I'm only interim, just leave.
Well, if you only want to be interim, best of luck to you.
Hope to see you later on, so
Yep.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor, do we have anything for item 7?
No.
Okay, with that, there being no other business on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I hereby declare the meeting adjourned.